Hey everybody, welcome back to JT channel and welcome to my first old school review, I suppose. I don't want to use the word retro just because I feel like it's too close to the Simon Miller thing. Hang on. Okay, sorry, my phone was being weird. But welcome to my review of a WrestleMania 30. Now, I have mentioned in the past that I would like to do reviews of old shows. I even had like a title for it and a system, but I figured it's more fun if I just do it my way, where I just sit here and talk about the stuff and react to it, I suppose. Now, of course, WrestleMania 30 took place 11 years ago. Somebody please dig my grave already. And the main reason I want to review this, as you can tell by the title and hopefully the thumbnail, is that I was at WrestleMania 30. I figured it's the perfect WrestleMania to kind of kick off my old school reviews where I review old wrestling shows. And while this isn't old as in like something from the 90s or 80s or even the very early 2000s, like I said, it's 11 years old, and it had so much controversy, and it was so good, in my opinion. It's one of the best WrestleManias of the modern era, except for one match, which wasn't their fault. But because I was there, I feel like I can share my experiences with you guys as well. And yes, when it was over, when I got back from WrestleMania, I rewatched it from home as like a regular at-home fan, and it was so cool. It was so cool to do. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying I figured that's a perfect reason to do this. Not only did I go to WrestleMania, I also went to the Hall of Fame. Now, the reason that is important is because growing up, when I was a itty bitty whoop, I was obsessed with The Ultimate Warrior. Now, I was born in 1991, which means I missed some of the best of his 80s stuff. And, of course, I had to sit through his WCW crap. But as I got older, I revisited that stuff on VHS. That's right, kids. Videotapes. And I just fell in love with him. His energy, as you can tell, I have wild energy. And the fact that he did like less moves than John Cena and won all the time. He probably, maybe, just perhaps was on cocaine, but, who knows for sure. But I loved the guy. And when I was really little, like I think maybe double digits, but definitely not a teenager yet, I said I wanted him to go in the Hall of Fame. And my dad laughed at me because he knew the stories, the real stories, which I didn't learn until I was much older. He was like, that's never going to happen. And I said, it will happen. And when it does, I want to be there. I fulfilled the prophecy, I suppose, because sure enough, The Ultimate Warrior was the headline inductee in the 2014 Hall of Fame. Now, of course, we all know what happened 48 hours later, or well, 72, I guess, because the Hall of Fame was on the Saturday night. This was back when WrestleMania was one night. I know, it was the thing once. And it was tragic. I cried a lot, but I will always remember actually being able to be there. Now, I don't want to review the Hall of Fame, but that year's Hall of Fame was really cool, so I made sure to write it down so I didn't forget. It was Warrior, obviously, Jake the Snake Roberts, Lita, Paul Bearer, Carlos Colon, and Razor Ramon. I mean, does it get any better than some of those names? Of course, I was a huge Razor Ramon fan. Of course, my favorite wrestler of all time is The Undertaker, so of course I was huge for Paul Bearer. And, of course, if you didn't watch the Hall of Fame live, then you missed when Lita was being inducted and they had this big Titantron. And once or twice they showed her face on it, but then it cut to the Hall of Fame logo. And we all started chanting, put the screen back. And The Ultimate Warrior ranted and raved about the WWE going back to the WWF. And we all screamed and cheered. I'm sure that got cut out too. But it was really fun. I had to bring that up because, again, it meant the world to me. I told myself as a child, and I told my father as a child, it's going to happen and I'm going to be there. And I actually was. So, super cool. But WrestleMania 30, of course, the 30th WrestleMania, not the 30th anniversary. It's not how anniversaries work. Took place in New Orleans, Louisiana. How the hell did I go? I was in the military at the time. I was in the Navy for 4 years. I have no idea why I saluted. That was dumb. But I had the money, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool to go to WrestleMania? And I took my brother, and we had the time of our lives. And, of course, this started off with Hulk Hogan back, I think, before all the controversies came out, so I was still excited to see him. I didn't boo him until I was red, white, and blue in the face. But he came out, he cuts his promo, he calls it the Silverdome because he lives and dies in the Silverdome at WrestleMania 3, which means I was part of the Superdome chants. And it was so weird because when Steve Austin's music hit, me and my brother lost our minds. Of course, Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out and he, picks on Hulk Hogan for a little bit. They do a little back and forth. Then The Rock comes out and they all do a back and forth, and The Rock suggests that a bunch of people are going to have sex and have babies just because The Rock came out. That's what happened. I am just passing on information. If you have not seen WrestleMania 30, go and watch that opening segment. That is exactly, I think he makes like a rhyme or something out of it about rock babies. It's ridiculous. I was, of course, losing my mind, but going back and watching it, calm down, Dwayne. But this, of course, is three of the biggest legends of all time. A lot of people put all three of them on their Mount Rushmore. People who know what Hulk Hogan did still put him on the Mount Rushmore. And that's, that's your opinion. That's fine. But it was, of course, an epic moment. The thing that I thought was funny was I kind of thought Rock and Austin could have been switched. I get the surprise of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I did obviously lose my mind extra with The Rock. But I feel like if The Rock would have come out, that would have been a nice little, oh, and look, it's Rock and Hogan. Remember WrestleMania 18? Blah, 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 blah. And then Steve Austin would have been a bigger surprise. But it's fine. It's fine. And according to what I've read and heard, it was actually reported that they were in the building before the show. I didn't know that. I didn't pay attention to the crap like that back in 2014. But cool. It was actually a surprise to me. The opening matchup was Daniel Bryan versus Triple H. By the way, my notes are just the matches. I didn't write down what happened. I'm trying to go off of memory here 11 years ago. I just heard a weird noise. Anyway, so it was Daniel Bryan versus Triple H. Now, again, you have to transport yourself back to 2014 and even 2013 because WWE, Vince McMahon, did not want Daniel Bryan anywhere near the main event scene. They did not see him as a world champion. The B-plus player storyline was not a storyline. I mean, it was, but that's actually how they felt about him. Matter of fact, they probably saw him as lower than B-plus. But crowds willed it into existence. Give you another fun little tidbit about me. I also attended the Slammy Awards in 2013. Now, again, if you don't know or don't remember, that was the night they were in Seattle, which is just a hair or two away from Daniel Bryan's hometown, which is 2 seconds. I don't remember where he's from, and I don't feel like looking it up. The point is he's from Washington State, so obviously Seattle, lost their minds for him. But this was when they did the segment at the end of the show where John Cena and Randy Orton had to hang both titles up because I think they were having a TLC match. And everybody just kept cheering for Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson. They just kept cheering his name and chanting yes and saying Daniel Bryan and yes, 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 over and over and over. I was in the fifth row. I was really close for that. To the point where Mark Henry had to show him, and I think John Cena showed him and stuff. It was insane, and that was pretty much the catalyst in my opinion. So don't get it confused. That was never the plan. I don't know when it became the plan, but the original plan for the main event of WrestleMania was Randy Orton versus Batista, and nobody wanted to see that at the time. So, why am I babbling on about this? Well, the opening match of WrestleMania had been built for Daniel Bryan continually having all the support. They did the Raw Takeover, which if you haven't seen, you have got to see it. It's so cool. A bunch of fans got to jump the barricade and be in Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan merch and block the ring from anything happening. So, this match was to determine the third participant in the main event. It was either going to be Randy Orton versus Batista versus Triple H or versus Daniel Bryan. Orton and Batista was happening no matter what. It's a really good match. Triple H knew what he was doing. He knew that he had to put himself in a position of, I'm an asshole, I'm going to take your opportunities away from you. But he also had to make Daniel Bryan look strong. Again, I'm not here to walk you through every bit of the match. I think Daniel Bryan kicks out of a pedigree. I think Triple H kicks out of a Busaiku knee all the way through. And then eventually Bryan hits another Busaiku knee. 1, 2, 3. He's going on to the main event. It's super simple, easy stuff. I loved every second of it, and the live crowd. Being in that crowd, 75,000 or so people, and we're all just begging for Daniel Bryan to do it. And that's the thing, is that he was in there with Triple H, who, for how long now? Until he retired. Until the day he set his boots in the ring, I think at WrestleMania 38 or 39, everyone knew he was a backstage politic guy. So there was every chance that he was going to beat Daniel Bryan, and we were going to have to sit through that main event, whether we liked it or not. I don't think people would have, but it's another conversation for another day. But it was a really good match, and I actually really liked the aftermath. Of course, again, live in the crowd, I was going boo, 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 and I was not saying boo earns. But when he and Triple H, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon beat up Daniel Bryan and go after that bad shoulder a bunch, trying to get you to think, oh no, they've ruined him. He's no way he's going to win the main event. So really good stuff. I enjoyed it immensely from either perspective. Again, I'm not here to brag about being there, but I think they did a really good job. It was a good business, what's best for business. And Triple H and Daniel Bryan did have good chemistry. I'll give them that much. We then had what I think was the funniest WrestleMania match that didn't involve a celebrity, especially with WrestleMania 30 when we weren't doing that kind of stuff just yet. But it was a Shield taking on Kane and New Age Outlaws. Now, at this point, the New Age Outlaws were back. I don't remember if they were tag team champions at the time. And Kane, they were all pretty much part of the Authority. Of course, New Age Outlaws were. But the Shield had separated themselves from the Authority. They were like, we're not your lackeys anymore. We're going to continue to take over the world and take over wrestling just without your help. We got this. So they were putting this matchup. I looked at the time because I went back and saw this match, and I remember it going really fast. And I wasn't sure how fast. 2 minutes and 56 seconds. It doesn't even cross the 3-minute mark. And it's so good to watch. It's so fun to watch because the Shield, Roman, Seth, and of course Dean Ambrose, now Jon Moxley, they just run through these guys. They beat the holy hell out of them. There's a bunch of dives. There's a bunch of moves. And then they do the Shield powerbomb to both Road Dogg and Billy Gunn and beat them for the 1, 2, 3. And then they leave and do the fist thing and put their hands in the air. It was so interesting to watch, especially when you go from the opening, all the opening stuff with all the legends and then the Daniel Bryan Triple H, and your emotions are way up here. And then this match just blows by. And to be honest with you, it's hard to argue that they haven't done exactly what they said we were going to do. I know people are going to argue until they're blue in the face about Jon Moxley, but he is a star, perhaps the star of AEW. And of course, Seth and Roman, I mean, they're about to main event WrestleMania together with CM Punk. Anyway, at this point, CM Punk was gone. Sorry. Next up, we had the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Now, something I just learned recently, or well, not learned recently, but something I learned later on that was reminded of recently, and it's really stupid, but apparently the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, if you put out the acronym, if you do each letter, it's Andre Rousimov Memorial Battle Royal. You take the B and the A from Battle Royal, it spells out armbar. I hate pro wrestling sometimes. Anyway, I didn't write down all 31 participants because that's dumb. Because this wasn't a good battle royal. Battle royals are hard to be good because it really comes down to the last few moments, last few people. Royal Rumble is one thing, but a battle royal where everyone's in the ring already, 31 people are in the ring. Excuse me. I mean, it was fun to watch for the most part. Everybody just kind of sat on their hands, really, and just kind of watched as people went over the top rope. But the big talking point is the final two people are Cesaro and the Big Show. Cesaro picks up the Big Show, holds him up, and throws him over the top rope in a moment that was obviously supposed to mimic what happened with Andre and Hogan, but may have been even better than the Andre Hogan spot, because by the time the Andre Hogan spot happened, Andre had already been slammed a bunch. They just pretended it was the first time ever. Hogan had even slammed Andre before. But this was actually Cesaro, and it was just a slam, by the way. It was just a boom. Cesaro picks up Big Show, holds him, puts him to the ropes, and throws him out of the ring. I think that's better. And we all remember how successful and how well Cesaro was used after this. I am lying. They didn't do shit, and I'm still mad about it. I'm glad he's Claudio Castagnoli and is doing whatever he's doing in AEW. That's great for him. But it will always bother me and most wrestling fans that we gave Cesaro the first Andre, and we didn't do anything with it. And here we are in 2025, and the Andre takes place on SmackDown. There's literally no point to it anymore other than to keep a tradition going and have one more match on the Mania card, even though it's on SmackDown. So it was fine. It was fine. I popped huge for that moment. We all did, obviously. I rewatched it a ton, and I love Cesaro. So there you go. Coming up next is one of what I think one of many controversies coming out of this WrestleMania, and I think now I'm looking at the match order, there's actually back-to-back controversies. It's John Cena versus Bray Wyatt. Why is it controversial? Because John Cena won, and Bray Wyatt probably should have. Now, I remember feeling this way all the way back in 2014, and I promise you 11 years later, nothing has changed. I still believe that Bray Wyatt could have won that match. It would have done a world of good for him. It would not have hurt John Cena. John Cena by 2014 was untouchable, okay? I could have beaten John Cena, and he still would have been okay, all right? The match itself, I think, was pretty good. I think it clocked in at about 22 minutes. Don't expect a bunch of time things, but I did happen to see the time on that match when I was going through my research. And there was some good stuff. Bray Wyatt and John Cena had really good chemistry. I don't know why people really think John Cena was a bad wrestler. I used to think it. You can find posts of me talking shit about him, but I changed my tune and, realized I was wrong. But he had good chemistry with quite a few people, and Bray Wyatt was one of them. I did pop for, I think he did a crossbody to Rowan and Harper. I don't know why I thought that was cool. I always thought it was cool when John Cena did high flying stuff. And the best bit in my opinion is Bray Wyatt wants John Cena to be evil and use a chair and use a weapon and just whatever. And John Cena does. John Cena uses a chair, but he doesn't hit Bray Wyatt. He hits Eric Rowan, but somehow him hitting Eric Rowan isn't evil. It's only evil if he hits Bray Wyatt. I don't know pro wrestling. But then he hits, I think, an AA or two, and he beats Bray Wyatt. It's very Cena wins lull, and they did kind of try to fix it afterwards when the feud continued. They did a few things and gave Wyatt some wins, and I think it was Extreme Rules maybe, with the little kid saying he's got the whole world in his hands in that steel cage match. But it was too little too late. WrestleMania would have been the moment to crown Bray Wyatt. He got to be played to the ring, which was cool. I actually was a fan of that. I love it when artists... Well, I do love it when artists get to play wrestlers to the ring. There you go. I mean, just last year we had freaking Motionless in White. I mean, I'll never get over that. But overall, it was a disappointing ending, but it was a fine match. I can't really be mad when the match was good. And looking back on it, no matter how many times you watch it, you're always going to go, damn it, Bray Wyatt should have won. So I don't see a point on dwelling on it. Just enjoy it for what it was. It's a fun little time. And like I said, I think eventually they tried to do their best with it. The big controversy comes up next. And I know I'm kind of blowing through this, but like I said, I'm just here to kind of talk to you guys about it. I'll pause real quick. This is what these reviews are going to be like if I decide to keep doing them. So if you enjoy this, let me know. But next up, was Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker. Now, again, I want to take you back to me. What was I feeling? Because I was in the crowd. So what was the crowd feeling? What was it like in that audience? It was insane, is what it was. This is a hard match to watch because, as we know now, The Undertaker suffers a concussion during it. I don't know when, but you can tell at some point in the match he's having a harder time keeping up. And that's never good. Especially since this was 2014, The Undertaker would wrestle quite a bit more. I think he wrestled the next 5 or 6 WrestleManias. He might have missed one, but I'm not even sure he missed one, to be honest with you. If he did, it was 35. I'm sorry, I'm getting off track. But the talking point here, I can talk about the match all I want, but the match isn't all that good. It's, there's kickouts of every move under the sun, including 2 F5s. Then, of course, Brock Lesnar hits a third F5. I think he comes out of a tombstone and flips him into the third F5, and then 1, 2, 3, Michael Cole goes, the streak is over. That will be one of my favorite calls for as long as I live. There's a lot out there, especially now that Vincent Kennedy McMahon is fucking... Now that Michael Cole and all the commentators are allowed to just talk, there's a lot of really good lines, especially from Michael Cole. But to this day, I will always remember the way Michael Cole said, the streak, and then went, is over. Like, you could tell, and as we all know that he had no clue. I think it was The Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman, and like the powers that be, the higher ups, were the only ones that knew. I don't even think they told the referee, if I remember right. I think they told him right before the last F5. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I remember, they told him shortly before the end, they're like, hey, Brock's going over. And he was like, okay, 1, 2, 3. And you could tell he was like, are we sure about this? And I was in so much shock. I have to laugh about it now. If you go watch that match on Peacock, the network, Netflix, whatever y'all have anymore, the camera will pan over a certain section of the crowd and you'll hear a very faint but definitely noticeable bullshit chant. That's my section. My little section started chanting bullshit, and I was so mad. I remember this vividly. I was chanting it, I was pointing, and my whole face was shaking. I'm not going to try to copy it, try to redo it here, but I was the angriest I'd ever been at pro wrestling. I was so mad. And afterwards, I just remember telling my brother, like, this was stupid. Why would they do this? It had to be a mistake. They're going to overturn it. I was denying it. Left, right, hair in my mouth. Too many handles. Left, right, and center. I don't remember ever being that angry again. I have examples of being that angry with wrestling before, but I was pissed. If you go back and watch it now, if I watch it today, Truth be told, I'm not angry anymore, but I still think it's a mistake. People always ask me, well, not always, but whenever I see the question, what's the wrestling hill you'll die on? Undertaker's streak, if they were going to end it, it should have ended at WrestleMania 29. Should have given it to CM Punk. It was the perfect time to end the streak. Punk would have gone on to God knows what. And we still could have done Undertaker Brock Lesnar again in the future. It wouldn't have hurt anything. It's just, I think it would have been better to do 20-1 instead of 21-1. I can go on about it forever. And then look at the matches he had afterwards. Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns, John Cena, AJ Styles. Like I said, I don't think he wrestled at 35. I think that was the first WrestleMania he missed in like 23 years or some shit. But overall, it wasn't very good. The match, of course, suffers because of the concussion. I don't care if the streak ended. I care how it ended, who ended it, etc., etc. So, not my favorite Undertaker match, but if I'm going to watch like every streak match, I'll watch it. It's fine. We then had a match that couldn't have sucked more due to the placement. Because AJ Lee was in this feud with SmackDown General Manager Vicky Guerrero, and Vicky said at WrestleMania you have to face everybody. That's 13 other women. I did write all of them down. I don't want them to feel left out. 31 people for the Rumble or for the Battle Royal was too many, but I felt like this needed to be talked about for one, because it's not really fair where they were put, and for two, because I feel like an asshole, and I'll explain why in a minute. But AJ Lee had to defend her Women's Championship, or Divas Championship, I just can't remember which one it was, against Oksana, Alicia Fox, Brie Bella, Cameron, Emma, Eva Marie, Layla, Naomi, Natalia, Nikki Bella, Rosa Mendez, Summer Rae, and Tamina, Ain't Nobody Mina. So, the problem with this match is obvious, right? WWE tries to get everyone on the WrestleMania card. Now, in 2025, the last 3-4 WrestleManias, they've been much better with that. I think pretty much WrestleMania 38 forward, because 36 was the pandemic, 37 was the first one with fans, and Vince was still around. 38 was better, 39 was better, 40 was amazing. 39 was amazing too, but point is, back when it was only one night, they would try so hard to get everyone on the card, and usually that meant that something had to suffer. Tag team titles, women's matches especially. Not only was this placed at a horrible spot on the card between the Undertaker's streak ending, and right before that, Cena beating Wyatt, which nobody really wanted, and this massive main event, but they just chucked all these women in there, and you just knew that nothing big was going to happen. The reason I feel like an asshole is because AJ Lee wins. I think she submits Naomi with like a version of the abdominal stretch with her legs, like a tarantula in the ring. I don't know. This match was nuts. But the point is, the bell rang for the winner. The bell rang, the match was over. At that point, I finally came out of my like comatose, I can't believe the Undertaker streak just ended state, and said, oh cool, time for the women's match. I missed the entire match. I felt so bad, even though it doesn't matter. I'm one guy in a sea of 74,000 plus people, and no one's going to notice that I didn't watch the match. But I felt bad. I was like, oh my God, I just was out of it for the entire match. From when Undertaker walked back to the backstage through the Titantron, whatever, I just sat there, zoned out. I didn't hear the entrance themes. I wasn't paying any attention. And the only bell I heard was the final bell. So when I got home and rewatched it from the beginning, I made sure to actually watch it. And this match is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's hard to care because of everything that came before it. Not just The Undertaker losing his streak, but like I mentioned, you had John Cena beating Bray Wyatt. So fans were just like, oh my God, can we get something? Can we get something? Anything. We got something. Because then we get to the main event, which is Daniel Bryan and Batista, and I believe Orton was the champion at the time, the undisputed champion. I mentioned that Orton and Cena had that thing back in 2013 for, I think, TLC. So the undisputed title, it's the WWE title and the world title. And this match is so good because it is all built around the fact that Daniel Bryan isn't going to win. There's no way. Batista, too big, isn't going to let him stop. Orton, too much experience, isn't going to let him. You get all these incredible moments where, like, Batista takes out Bryan Danielson. Daniel Bryan, same guy. And him and Orton go at it for a while. And you're just sitting there going, this isn't what I wanted. And then Daniel Bryan comes back in, gets some momentum. There's really great near falls throughout the whole match. And it really does remind me of 10 years before WrestleMania 20 when we did Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Chris Benoit. Now, I know Chris Benoit is a divisive figure. I can't ever get over what he did and what happened, but I have moved on enough to appreciate the fact that he was a great pro wrestler. And that's, end of conversation. But it was exactly 10 years later, not exactly, but 10 years after that, you kind of have the same story. A small guy who isn't supposed to be on top gets a chance to do just that. Now, the difference was, I think Chris Benoit won the Royal Rumble. Batista won the Royal Rumble in 2014. Yeah, I went there. Anyway, this is just such a good story. And it's that epic moment, that epic shot of Batista powerbombing Daniel Bryan through an announce table and Orton kind of catching him in the RKO. It's more like a neck breaker. Like, everyone's like, it's an RKO. And I mean, he did it like an RKO, but Bryan was falling backwards, so it's more like a leaping neck breaker. It's fine. I don't mean to nitpick. It is what it is, but it's so cool. Don't get me wrong. The thing that no one talks about for some reason, I've never understood why. I have watched review after review. I have talked to people about this, and everyone seems to forget that Randy Orton lands back first on a monitor. And it's 2014. This isn't the little iPad bullshits that we have nowadays. This was a square television monitor that he just collapses on top of. And you can tell he is in pain for this segment with just him and Batista for a while. And Batista's kind of not carrying the match by any stretch of the imagination, but he's got to make sure that Orton's all right. Yeah, it's horrendous. Again, for some reason, no one ever talks about it. It sucks, and we're all lucky Randy Orton didn't get very, very seriously injured. But, of course, eventually, I believe Batista gets a Batista bomb on Orton, but before he can do anything, Daniel Bryan runs in, locks him into the LeBell Lock, and he holds it for quite a while, and I love it. Michael Cole, once again, is the GOAT. He's just screaming, tap out Batista, because by this time, he had stopped being the arrogant commentator that hated Daniel Bryan because he's a nerd, and was just like the rest of us, just happy to support Daniel Bryan's journey. And when he does tap out, Michael Cole once again screams the Miracle Kid, I think twice, and we all rejoice. Everybody's chanting yes, to the point where it's hard to know any other word for the rest of the night. As far as my personal reaction at the time, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was really happy, but then I looked at my brother and said, they only did that to try to make us forget what happened 2 matches ago, and I'm never going to forget. Like, I was still very, very upset. Again, kayfabe was very alive for me until about 2014. Like, that was about the year I started to be like, something's not on the up and up here. But it was an awesome match. It was, again, the chemistry between the three, the way that WWE built it. Usually it sucks, right? When you're watching a triple threat match and they just take out one guy, so these two can wrestle. But now that guy's out, so now these two can wrestle. And so on and so forth. What am I doing with my hands? But this worked really well because every time Daniel Bryan was taken out, it sucked the air out of everybody's lungs, sucked the air out of the room. Everyone was like, oh no, not Randy Orton or Batista, come on. And now I love Randy Orton, and I like Batista. I don't mean to... Batista's great, don't get me wrong. But even at his peak, I wasn't like the biggest Batista fan in the world. I'm like, man, Batista's really good, But good Lord, I've always been a huge Randy Orton fan. Except for the time he DDT'd Stephanie McMahon and I punched my television and put a bruise on my knuckle. That's a true story. I'll have to tell the whole story someday, but this was just, even though I love them both, at the time it wasn't for them, it was for Daniel Bryan. Being in that arena and feeling that energy after such a crazy roller coaster show, it was awesome. And to this day, one of the best WrestleMania endings ever. There are people out there that say that it is the best WrestleMania ending ever because you had the show-long story where Daniel Bryan beat Triple H but got beaten up and has to go in this match injured, and there's no way he can win. Then he does win, and it's like, holy crap, one of us did it, basically, He's one of us. So, overall, I stand by what I said earlier. WrestleMania 30 is one of the best modern WrestleManias. Modern, it was 11 years ago. Certainly over like, when you look at the WrestleManias that came before it and the WrestleManias that came after it, it's one of the best of that generation because WrestleMania 26, 27, 28, and 29 are not that great. They have some great matches on them, but they're not good overall. You look at WrestleManias 31 through 36, you have the same problem, especially WrestleManias 33, 34, and 35, which were way too long, way too convoluted. had just not great builds, not great matches. And again, I'm not saying there aren't great matches. I think there was probably at least one great match at every single WrestleMania, even WrestleMania, the first few. But when it comes to like the 10-year span of WrestleMania 26 to WrestleMania 36, yeah, I'm a little biased, but I do think WrestleMania 30 has to be considered the best WrestleMania on there. Even with some of the crappy decisions, the matches were good. Yes, Lesnar-Taker was not a great match at a bad decision, but it shook the wrestling world to its core, and it stayed there for a very long time. And of course, like I said, the ending was great. I don't think we had that good of an ending until WrestleMania 40. And it kind of feels like it's going to be that way forever. WrestleMania 20, WrestleMania 30, WrestleMania 40, and even WrestleMania 10. I believe that's when Bret Hart won the world title, and the whole locker room came out and held him on their shoulders. Yeah. So I don't know if WWE keeps planning this, but you had Bret Hart at 10, Chris Benoit, sorry, had to go be a parent. Benoit, Hart at 10, Benoit at 20, Bryan at 30, Rhodes at 40. So who's it going to be at 50? But thank you everybody so much for watching. This was fun. I enjoyed doing this. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and give it like star ratings or anything. Now, I have not recently watched WrestleMania 30. I recently watched another review of it. It was Simon Miller. Who am I kidding? And it reminded me of everything that happened. But if you would like me to do a little more in-depth reviews where I like watch the show and write down little notes here and there, I'd be more than willing to do that. I love watching old wrestling, especially now that WWE released 2 new YouTube channels, the WWE Vault, and WCW. And I've been watching that like crazy. I watched Uncensored 96. If you don't know what Uncensored 96 is, just look it up. Just find it on YouTube. It's a nightmare. But don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Like I said, let me know down in the comments if you like this. If you like it, maybe just hit the like button. Oh, how about that? And like button's not up there. It's down there somewhere. But let me know if you have another old pay-per-view you'd like me to review. I could review more shows I've been to. They're not really old, but it's just a unique perspective. Again, I'm not bragging, but I was at an not Extreme Rules, a Payback, I think, a few years back. The event where Enzo Amore went under the bottom rope and like got knocked unconscious. I was at that. I was at SummerSlam in Nashville. That was fun. And again, I was at the Slammies in 2013. I have a few stories I could tell that could be fun to rewatch those shows. As always, thank you to W Energy for sponsoring. If you guys don't know about W Energy, they are a keto-friendly, sugar-free, jitterless energy drink. You can go to wbbenergy.gg, D-U-B-B-Y energy.gg. Enter my code, JT Channel, all caps, all one word. Get 10% off your order. Give them a try. I will be giving them a try very soon. I know I keep bringing them up and haven't actually tried them yet, but I'm very thankful to have a sponsor. It's crazy. How do I have a sponsor? But until next time, look out for more WrestleMania stuff. We're almost there. The card is almost finished. We're right there. And we'll be doing my picture predictions. Until next time, this is JT Channel. I am JT. Happy WrestleMania season, and I will see you in the next one.